Speed. Brakes, they stop your car. Metal on metal contact wears them out, and then you have to replace them. In today's video, we're going to be replacing the rear, and the front brake pads on both sides, all four corners, in my sister's 2010 base model boring Subaru Impreza. Unfortunately, I only have 4 pads, so I'm gonna have to go back to somewhere and get some pads. Okay, so I determined that we need rear brake pads as well, so I'm gonna get back in the car and leave. Speed. I got my seatbelt on, don't worry about it. All right, so we got the pads, front and rear. You gotta wear a mask now in public places, or you can get fined. Oh, Jesus Christ. You gotta wear a mask now in public or you can get fined, which is always cool. That's fun, seeing people freak out when I walked in without my mask on. But I still don't know where to put the phone. I don't know if you can hear that. You can kind of hear it. But yeah, all right, I'm gonna drive back to the shop now. Hopefully I make it there before these pads just completely disintegrate. Hi, so I've got damn near this entire driver's side done, and now I'm gonna start filming, because that makes sense. We got the pads on and everything with the brake assembly fixed for the driver's side. I will show you everything that I'm doing when I get to the passenger side. I don't think I'm gonna film the detail at all, because I think at this point you're either bored with it or there's no point. There. Okay, oh my goodness. Like with any wheel, you don't want to be tightening it up in a circle. You want to do the star pattern, so start somewhere, hop over, and then hop over, and then hop over, and then hop over, and then you're back. And then double check. And everything should be tight. No wheels should be flying off when you're on the highway, because that's always fun. Grab a jack stand right there. There, the car is jacked up. Now we can start taking off the wheels. But you can see that this one's, there's a lot of brake dust on there. That's because the backs are so bad. There, so those are all off. I didn't mean to throw the socket as well. So it doesn't really want to come off. A little trick is you can just, I learned this in my lineman days. Hands inside and pop. There you go. See, it came off. Yeah. I'll get my tools and we'll start seeing how it goes. Okay. So we've got a bolt right here and a bolt up here. That releases the caliper from the braking assembly. We're gonna break those loose. They are a 14 millimeter. And you kind of have to use a shallow drive 14 millimeter because you don't have a lot of space between the shock. Ow. Ow. And it should just pop loose like that. And then after you break it free, you should be able to just get it out by hand. Same thing down here. Just pop. Oop, I didn't get on there all the way. Just popping it loose. Oh, there. And now they're free enough that you can get them off by hand. This is what holds the caliper into the housing. And I could already tell these, you kind of can't see, are overextended, which probably means they're not going to be very free, and we're gonna have to take this whole shoe housing off so we can break them free and lube them up. Now I'm gonna get the caliper housing and press out. I've got just a simple little flathead type pry bar. You don't want to pry too much because you don't want to break anything or cause any extra damage to something that's already there. I'm just kind of wedging this out Just working on one side, going back to the other side, top and bottom, and just wedging it out. Jesus, I can't hold on to my tools. You don't want to let this caliper hang because there is a soft hose on it, and if you pop that, you'll lose all your fluid, nothing breaks. You don't want to break that hose. So what we're gonna do is once we get this off like that, you see the brakes falling apart, we're going to find a nice place and lay it down without kinking the hose or twisting the hose too much. I've got it sitting right now on the A-arm coming off of the frame of the car. Now that I've got the caliper free, I'm gonna take these two bolts off. There's one right here, and then there's one down here. I believe they are 14s as well. Yes, they're 14s as well. And we're going to pop these off if I can. Oh, there we go. Free that up. That I should be able to get by hand now. Of course, the socket sticks to the end of the bolt, so I'm gonna have to get this all the way off. All right, the bolt is out, but the socket's still in it, so throw it on the ground a couple of times. What you're gonna do is throw it on the ground, and the bolt will pop out just because of science. And then we're gonna take the other one out. So it should be right there, and this one's just as seized up and nasty as the other one. There. And then we're gonna put a ratchet on there, and then try not to pick up the car. Have it fall off the jack stand, because that would be bad. I would lose a foot, probably. There. And she broke loose. Broke as in freed, but not broke as in broken, because that would be bad, as in bad. And of course, again, the socket's stuck to the bolt, but it is what it is. We know how to take it off. And pop it on the ground. Pop it. There, she's free. Don't want to lose the socket or the bolt. Oh. Now the housing is free from the wheel assembly, and it should just pop off using my, oh yeah, it's loose. The only thing holding it on right now is the seized pads, and that comes right off. This whole thing comes right off, and these are the pads. Oh, there was a pad. We're past the pad itself, and we're on to just the frame. You can see that these pads are unevenly worn. I believe that is because this is that slide, and you see how this one is moving, but it's very tough, and this one's pulled in, and it won't move at all. It will. Never mind, broke it free. I'll show you what we're gonna do with these now. So these should be freely sliding and not catching on anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop these seals, pull them all the way out, both the top and bottom, re-lube them, clean up the inside of these holes, and then stick them back in. So you don't wanna rip this rubber, so you kinda wanna be careful, but they are meant to come off. So you can do this, re-lube them. I got the rubber off on this one, and now we're just going to pull and pull it out. And you can see how nasty that lube is that was in there. We're going to clean those off. I'm gonna leave this one in there so I don't switch up top and bottom. Oh my God, it's snowing outside. That's super cool. Okay, just gonna grab a simple wire brush, and we're just going to kind of go around and get all that gunk off there, and then put some clean gunk on there. And then I'm gonna get my lubricant, and I'm going to just kind of put a generous amount on both sides, and then a little bit on the tip. And then we're going to take the housing itself, and we're gonna stick it in there. I can do this by hand. Stick it in there, and just kind of, as we're going in, move all that around. There it goes. Yeah, so these slide and open up and contract with the caliper itself. The caliper, I'll show you, has a big press in the middle, and as you press on the brake, the hydraulic fluid pushes through the system, through the hose, and it squeezes the pads onto the rotor. And then when you let off the brake, it opens up. Now this helps keep consistency between top and bottom, and also as your pads wear down, these slide down to meet the pads. So the caliper doesn't have to be doing so much extreme expanding and contracting. So now we're going to take this bottom one out, and it, as you can see, is a little bit looser than the top one was before, but that's okay because we're going to take it off anyways. These little pieces of metal, they're extremely sharp. I've already sliced my finger open right there. Focus, focus, focus. Well, I sliced my finger open, and I just filled it with a little bit of brake dust. It's not going to hurt anybody. Go back that rubber. You can hear how crunchy it is. Oh, and that one's damn near dry. So we don't want that because you can see the rust building up on it. We're going to just quickly clean that up. There, she's a little bit cleaner now. We're just going to take our lube and put a healthy amount on one side, the top or the bottom, and then again on the other side. That is a bit much, but this is still there. So then we're going to take it off this, and we're going to put it back in its sleeve, moving it around, getting that stuff all over, all nice and good. Squeezing it down all the way. And so the rubber catches. Oh yeah. Now we've got two free-moving, soft-feeling, lubricated pads. What we're gonna do next while we're here, we've got this, clean off these pads, lube them up, we'll put the pads in, and then we'll put the whole assembly, the whole built assembly with the pads back onto the rotor, and then we'll put the caliper onto this. Again, I'm just going to take my wire brush and just kind of scrape these out a little bit. You can see those bottom ones are pretty clean now. Now we're gonna do the top ones, or whatever. I don't remember the orientation, but there. And now those ones are pretty clean. We're going to take my zip tie that I'm using as a little applicator, clean it off because it's got a little bit of dust on it. And we're going to take some of this lube and just put it on the contact points where the pads are going to be rubbing. This helps keep everything moving, stops everything from seizing, and it also helps prevent rust buildup. All right, I'm back. What were we doing? Oh yes, lube. All right, so I've got lube where the pads are going to be touching, but I'm still going to put a little bit on the pads themselves. So to whoever's daughter needs to hear this, check your brake pads, check your oil, check your air filter. It's not that hard to look up what I should be looking at my car, just general maintenance. And if you can't do it yourself, which, I mean, I understand why a lot of people can't, find someone who will do it for you. Not for free, because, I mean, as you can see how dirty I am, how much time this takes. It's nothing that you can't just ask someone to do for free. But there's good people out there, there's good guys out there that'll help you out and not charge an arm and a leg for you. Plus, if you walk into a mechanic and you say, hey, I need 5W30 in my oil change, and make sure you put a filter on there, they're going to respect you a little bit more instead of you walking in and saying, I think my oil's bad, but I don't know what's going on. They're going to, you know, they're going to take advantage of the situation. So if you're informed on the object that you're talking about, a lot of people are going to find it hard to use you. That was my little spiel for the day. Yeah, check your oil, check your brakes, check your air filter. Yeah. Oh, also, the air filter is super easy. That's something that I could do when I was, that's something I could do now. So, I mean, just a little touch on the edges where stuff's going to be. You don't have to go too crazy on this. And then on the back where the pad's coming in contact with either the caliper or the slide itself. And we'll do the same thing on this one. Sorry, I'm not too good at this, using the camera while I'm working. I kind of don't want to touch my phone right now. I think you can understand why. I'm just going to put a little bit where everything touches. And then we're going to get the assembly. We're going to check to see. We're going to match up the curvature of the pads with the curvature of the rotors. These are not too curved, they're damn near straight, but you can still kind of see how it should go. Also, when you go to put it in, it wouldn't fit. We're going to put the one pad with the squeaky part on the back side of the assembly. It should just slide in. I do have a little bit of trouble with these back pads, getting them in. Oh boy. And then we're going to get the front one on. Same way. You want the writing to be facing outward on the assembly. Imagine that. Ow! Ow! Oh, God, I had it too. There. Super simple. And it slipped out. It's so hard to get in, but they're so easy to fall out. I obviously don't know what I'm doing. My goodness. We're just going to do a light little tap, not with the hammer, but with the wooden end of the hammer. And we're just going to... There. Not too much, because you still got to slide it over the rotor. There. But now you can see that the pads are in somewhat, and we're going to put it back onto the rotor. Okay, so we got the pads on the housing. We're going to slide the housing behind these two holes where these pins will go in, and over the rotor the pads will go. And then you just kind of want to squeeze them onto the rotor itself just a little bit more. Make sure everything's seated properly. And then you're going to take they're the longer bolts of the two sets. The longer bolts of the two sets that you took off, and then you're going to find your holes, line everything up, maybe. Oh, the bottom one wasn't in. There. You just gotta find your hole on the top. There you go. Nice and easy. This again. Just find the hole. Smooth like butter. I do have power tools that I could be using, smaller air ratchets that I could fit in here, but sometimes it's nice to just, you know, go old school. This is 14. Make sure you have your 14. Set your ratchet to the on position because you're putting on the bolts. And then you're just tightening it down. I could get the torque spec online for the exact foot-pounds that I'm supposed to be torquing these babies down, but I've done enough of these where I can kind of tell where to stop. And yeah, I'm a pretty smart guy when it comes to some things, probably. Okay, now the fun part with the caliper. Okay, so we've had this caliper kind of hiding out of the way on the A-frame, and you can see that, oh, there's a crap load of stuff in there. Just kind of tap that out. I don't really want to kink this line too much. That's the brake fluid line that moves this caliper in and out. So this is that press that is on the pads sitting between here. These bolt onto that frame that we just put on with the pads inside here. But you can see how extended this is. This is damn near fully extended because the pads were so low. Now we need to press this back in so we can slide it over those two brand new pads, because those two brand new pads are way thicker than what was on there before. Now, I can't just do that by hand, and you can't just hammer it back in because it needs to be slow, steady, and consistently pressured back into place, or you risk popping a line somewhere. What I do have is this fancy little tool. Super cheap, super simple. I feel like I say that I have a fancy tool in almost every video. We're going to take the caliper. We're just going to kind of set it somewhere where it's not too bad. We're going to slide this in. And what this does is as you twist, here, I'll show you. So I'm in the caliper now like this, right? And as I go to twist, that arm, this will stay still, that arm comes through, and you can kind of screw back the the caliper. I'm also going to take one of the old pads. I'm using the really bad old pad, and I'm going to set that right in front of the caliper itself so I can get an even press all the way around, because the caliper is a big hole and I wouldn't be able to get that little round circle thing. It would slide right through. So I'm going to put the pad in front of it, slide my tool in, and start to twist it back. There. So I've got pressure now, and you can see as I twist, the caliper will start to slowly go back into its housing. So you want to do this slowly and consistently. It's going to take a little bit of time to get this one all the way back. But what you're doing is you're pushing the fluid that has built up behind here back through this hose and into the rest of the system, back into the reservoir that's in the front of the engine compartment, or it's in the engine compartment. So I'm starting to slide up a little bit. Let me recenter my thing and start to twist. I'm taking my time with this and just slowly turning here and there. This caliper is it was so far extended that it's giving it just kind of seized up, but we've broken past that seize point, and now it's starting to go back in, and you can see it's starting to go back by itself to a point where I can almost pull the pad out because it's not squeezing anymore. All right, so now it's super loose and I'm able to get it all the way back there, and I just backed out, so you can see how wide open it is now. We're going to back off the pressure a little bit, pull our tool out, pull the old pad out, and then we're just going to line up, and you can see this just slides right over the top, no issues. We're going to take our two shorter screws now, these ones. They're still at 14 millimeters, but they're a lot shorter. These are the slide bolts, or they thread into that brake caliper slide. You just want to twist that down by hand again, because you don't have a whole lot of space to work with here because you're dealing with this. And then we're going to do the bottom one, line up that hole. Ones that we put on before, this one right here and the top one, those you can really torque down on because they're holding this whole assembly to the rotor. Not the rotor itself, but to the housing to the rotor. These you don't want to torque down. I mean, you want them to be tight, but you don't want them to be extremely tight. You don't need to really torque on them because they will start to spin inside the housing, which is not really what you want. And you don't need to tighten them down all the way because there is supposed to be some movement in them, but you want them tight enough to where you're not afraid the whole thing is going to fall off if you step on the brakes too hard. So we'll tighten those down. Again, not too much. There, and this rear one is good. I'm now going to put the tire back on this side, and we're going to move and do the front. I don't know if I showed you this before. I don't think I did. These lug nuts are capped, so you can only go so far, and if you really torque down on them too hard, you'll pop the stud out the other end of the cap. Oh, I need to go grab that socket I threw across the room. Again, you're going to want to do that star pattern. And then make sure the wheel stays on. We don't got any wobble or anything. That's one way you can check to see if your wheel bearing's good, is if you got the car lifted up and there's nothing on the bottom, and you can just wobble your wheel. If your wheel wobbles back and forth, that's most likely a wheel bearing issue. That you want to get as fixed as soon as possible. It's because the wheel bearing is what the wheel rides on, and if the wheel bearing busts open and all the bearings come out and your wheel's lopsided, the whole thing just off, gone forever. All right, the front's similar but different. Different size nuts and bolts on just two of the things. I'm not too sure if I'm going to need to take off the entire housing, this beam, because like I said before, these are relatively new. I actually think, well, we'll see when I get the caliper off. So what I'm going to do is pop this caliper off. It is still 14, but I need an extension on it because there is a hose running right in front of it. Make sure you're in the off position, and then just get up on that thing. And then, oh, nice and loose. Not loose isn't bad, but broke easily. And not broken isn't broken, but freed up easily. Yeah, there she is. And we're gonna pick up. And she also came off nicely. We can take these off by hand now. And boom, they popped off. Here we are again. I'm going to use that little pry bar that I've got and get behind the caliper. Now front brakes are usually a lot bigger than the rear brakes, and sometimes you'll even have disc brakes on the front of a vehicle and simple drum brakes on the back. Nothing wrong with drum brakes. They've got their place, but the front brakes are usually going to be bigger than the rear brakes unless it's like a high performance vehicle, just because it's easier to stop with the front and then there's less work needed on the back. Just physics. It's another place to save money when they're building a vehicle. So I've got the top pushed out a decent bit, but it's stopped me from being able to put my pry bar in the back. So I'm just gonna tap on the top a little bit, open up that back side, and then I can tap on it a little bit more, and then I can fit my pry bar in there and pry the back out, or the bottom, I guess I should say, and then hit the top again, and then the bottom. And we're just working this off. Again, actually wait, I don't want this caliper to fall, and I've got nowhere really good to set it, so I'm gonna grab I'll show you. I've got a simple little bungee cord. I'm gonna wrap the bungee cord around the caliper and then hang it so that it's out of my way, but not dangling off of the wiring, or the tube. There, so there's not really much of a serious bend. I don't like it. We're moving it. There. So there's not much of a serious bend in the cord, but we've got it bungeed off so it's out of my way and it's a good spot. You can see that this has 2 pistons instead of the rear only having 1. This is another example of, you know, the front's more important and takes more of the brunt. Let me get my seat again because my knees are starting to hurt. So we're gonna check these slides, and this one, it won't open up that much. And I think it's all the way back. Oh, there it goes. All right, so that was a little seized. We'll probably pop that off. And this one, you can see how easily this one moved without me having to put any pressure on it. I do not feel like I'm gonna need to pull the whole thing off. And you see it's pretty clean. I mean, it was seized up, so we're going to brush it off and re-lubricate it. And we're gonna slide that one right back in with the fresh lube until the boot goes back over. We might have to force the boot to go back over. Yeah, this boot does not want to work with me. What I do need to deal with is cleaning off these lower portions because they are nasty. There, that's clean. And then we'll do the back side and the top. Again, zip tie and a little bit of lube, and we'll hit those spots. And I'm gonna take my other pad. I ended up putting that one on the outside because I had the driver's side on the inside, and then I figured I might as well have it. It was just easier to put it on the outside because I had that big stupid lip thing. But we're gonna put this one on the back side because I think it'll slide in a little bit easier. If I can line everything up. Why won't? There it goes. There, okay. Now we're gonna put the lube on the outside of the caliper where it contacts everything. Just a little bit, and then smear it around all over. You don't need a whole lot. And we're done with the lubrication. Now you can see that these are pretty far back already, but we're still gonna have to do them just so we can slide them on over. And we're going to, again, like we did before, I don't need this in the way now, so I can take that out. And make sure you remove it from the vehicle. Sometimes people forget those, and there's a whole crap load of stuff. We're gonna put a pad in there, hold it there, and then open this up. So because on this one I've got 2 cutouts, one down here and one on the top, I'm going to, you can get presses that have 2 things to slide in, but I'm gonna do one side, get that pressed back in, and then I'll do the other side. So I'm gonna do the bottom first, And I'm gonna slowly press that one back in. And you can see how it is unevenly pressed. As I press this one in, the top one comes out a little bit. That's because the fluid's coming in here and it's going up there. And it's like, oh, I can just expand here because there's not any pressure right there. And then we're just going to loosen that a bit, put a pad back there, and then hit the top one. And it's just kind of working back and forth between the two. See how this one's now gapped down all the way and this one's still touching on the pad. If we twist this all the way down, there, and I backed out. Now they're both fully pressed. We can take this out, take the pad out, and it should be able to slide right over these pads. Put the caliper down. We're gonna squeeze these in just a little bit so it's easier to slide onto them. There. And there you go. This one's still out. There we go. Now you grab the two smaller bolts of the two. I know we didn't take that housing off, but it's still just good to know that it's the smaller ones. Also on the front brakes, the two housing bolts that hold the entire assembly onto the rotor, right here, they're size 15 or 16. So they're not the same size like on the backs, where these 4 sets of bolts were all the same head size, but the bolts for the slide were smaller in length. Now I'm just going to take my ratchet and see if I can't get on there, and then tighten it down with the ratchet. I guess that one wasn't tightened by hand yet. There it goes. And just a little bit more. There. And then we'll hit the top. The top, remember, you got to be careful of that hose. You don't want to get damage on that. And there. And the brakes are done all the way around. Now I just got to put this tire on and we'll be good. Okay. My nasty watered down coffee. All right, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Not an episode. Hope you enjoyed today. Screw it, they're episodes now. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of me working on cars. We got brakes done. I'm gonna finish up, clean up all my tools and clean up me, and then we're gonna wash the car real quick, and then I'm gonna deliver it back to where it needs to be. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What are you doing? The video's over. You guys can go. Jesus, I'm just cleaning up now. That's all it is. There's nothing left for you guys to see, all right? Go ahead. See you later. Bye.